Welcome to ParenTea, a show where we sip on tea and have a candid conversation about parenting. My name is Mai Lei. I'm your host, and it's always nice to see you, Dr. Tran. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, actually.
That's great. Well, every week I'm looking forward to our tea time. And today we have a special tea. Well, I have this tea called lychee jasmine tea, and I love the fragrance of it. So what tea you have?
Today I'm back to the reliable jasmine tea.
You never go wrong with jasmine tea. Yes. And this lychee jasmine is actually have the sweetness of that, so it's good. And I love it. Well, the episode today is sensitive because we will talk about the topic how to talk to our children about sex, relationship, and love. As parents, it is natural for us to be uncomfortable or uneasy when we talk about this topic. But it's our goal here to help provide guidance and support for the parent to navigate through this sensitive discussion with their children with grace and understanding. So, grab your favorite tea cup and let's settle in and dive into this conversation of ParenTea. So, Dr. Tran, what do you think will be a good time for parents to bring up to their children about sex or love relationship?
It's always best to start early and often. So early on, children are already providing us with opportunities very early on to discuss issues related to sex, love, and relationship. You have an instance where a 3-year-old who may be in a bathtub as he's bathing and points to his penis and asks, "What is this, mommy?" It is important in these type of discussions, we are honest. It's not a wee-wee or a ding-dong, or it is a penis. So it is important that they sense that we are honest, and that's where the comfort lies when these discussions are to be had in the future.
I remember my son when he was little, and we taking bath, and he said, "Mommy, what's this?" And I said, "That's family precious." Yes.
I haven't heard of that one before.
And for Asian family, it's very uncomfortable for parents to talk about sex. In fact, we avoid that. I remember growing up from Vietnam, I wasn't introduced to any class or any subject, and my parents never talk about that. In fact, I never see my parents kissing in front of me. Not even holding hand. Well, maybe holding hand once a while, but never kissing or any affection in front of me. And so the same for Asian parents to talk to their children about sensitive topic like that is very uncomfortable. And I remember my daughter asked me one time about how the baby was born, especially how are they born. And I told them that they came out from belly button, from mommy belly button. They're gonna start first up in the air somewhere, and then they go to the toenail, and from the toenail, it's a take months to develop, and they travel up all the way to the belly button, and they come out. So my daughter believed in that, my son believed in that. And then when they in 5th grade at school, they introduced to the sex class. And I was a little avoid. I was tell my husband that it's too early to introduce kids. It's only 5th grade. It's only 10 years old. But my husband say, let she learn because they will teach her proper than us, right? It's more comfortable when she learn from the teacher than learn from us. So we agree. We signed up for her to take that class. And then she come home one day. She was so sad. And I said, oh, what gone on? What did you learn from that class? And she say, Mommy, you lied to me all the year. I said, what you talking about? Well, you said a baby come out from the belly button. And I was fighting with my teacher and my friend. And it turned out that not that where it came from. And I was embarrassed too. And I would feel sorry. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that they teach that fast. I just thought, they was a talk about a different part of the child, and I didn't know that they actually already talk about that. So in that situation, Dr. Tran, what would you advise? Would you tell the parent to allow their kids taking these courses? And will you openly talk about that at what age so the children will be ready?
Yes, frankly, I'm very supportive of a class like that. I think, like I said, the earlier the better, maybe even earlier than that. But you would save yourself and the child a whole lot of grief if you can be honest. So you mentioned earlier, it's difficult for Asian culture to be direct and informative that way. It makes sense because we are a culture who pride on being modest. But you can be modest and also be honest and direct and informative as well. So it's how you present the information. I think it's important and key to having these courses or classes because they have questions that do not go answered, and we don't want to leave it to their own devices, their own imagination. So it's important that we educate or inform them and do so by being honest and not judgmental about it. Again, we would save ourselves and the child a lot of grief if we can be just direct with them.
Yeah, but what will be the appropriate age or appropriate time for parents to bring that up about this topic? Should we wait for the children ask us, or should we take the initiative to talk about that?
We can take initiative to point things out. Like, for instance, why do adults kiss? Mom, my friend at school says that her parents have sex. What is that? So there are times when it is brought forth to us, then it becomes an opportunity. And there are times when if you see bodily changes, maybe early on. I have adolescents as young as 8 having puberty, and they notice that something is happening with their body. It's important to have that conversation with them. You can initiate it, absolutely. You can ask them, hey, have you ever wondered where babies come from? What is your idea? What is your thought? How do you think? Initiating conversation is allowing them the opportunity to speak so that they can share ideas. And from there, you can adjust or maybe even correct or even shape the way that they see the world around them. Because a lot of the things that they come out with or come forth, a lot of the information may be obscured, may not be cleared. And that's where you come in. And the age, it really depends on the child. If you're going to initiate that, I can't say, yes, at 5 years old, because some 5 act like 2-year-olds, right? And some 5 are much more advanced. But you can safely say at around age 8, because that's where we're starting to see people, bring it up. You can ask these questions. Have you ever been curious where babies come from? You can start like that.
That's good. I guess maybe if the kid bring up, that's a good time. But if not, we should bring it up, especially when kids get to their puberty, because that's when they start question about their body, and that's also the time that school introduce to the classes. Speaking about the class, these courses that school offer, would you advise the parent to allow their children to learn at this early age, like about 5th grade, which is about 9 or 10 years old? Or maybe not allow, and even taboo, which is lock all their device so that they won't be able to search Google about the topic. Because I know some parents did that.
Taboos are very dangerous because it keeps us ignorant. It's important to have these conversations. That's why these classes are itself important. Because there are questions, even for many kids by that time, that they're curious about. So these classes will elicit a response or more questions. And then when they come home, they may ask and inquire us about it. So absolutely, the more we engage in these conversations or expose them to these classes, the more answers are provided. This then sets the foundation for greater understanding as they continue to mature. And it sets them solid when that time comes. Let's say when they're 15, they get pressured into having sex by another peer. They would have a good, strong foundation and understanding of what sex means, as opposed to having to try to figure it out and feeling uncomfortable they would have already felt comfortable because they understand where they're going with it.
Yes, also not only good to open up, let them learn about these sensitive topic, but on the internet we talk about the digital age. When kids have access to these resource content online, how does the parent know which one is good content or harmful content for the children, and how to help them distinguish that?
And we may not know unless we engage in it ourselves. So if it is brought forth, then we can observe and learn from some of these sources. But blocking it out, you can do that as well. But I assure you, they will find other ways to access these type of information. And besides, they're already learning by that age, by 10, 11, 12, 13 and on from their peers about sex. And the concern I have with that is that their peers may not be as informative. So that's why we come in. So I think, as I said, blocking these things is okay. I would rather we engage in conversation and maybe have a discussion about some of these sources, because some of the sources really they're not realistic. They are fantastical. They are not real content that has any meaning that is of great significance whatsoever. So the conversation is very important. Having that conversation allows them then to determine and discern what is appropriate and what's not. Remember, kids very young, early on, already have a pretty good intuitive power of right and wrong. They have a good moral sense. So we're just building on that through our conversation with them.
I feel like the more we talk about that, Dr. Tran, the more it becomes easier and comfortable to talk about that. But we try to avoid it and just bring it up, already feel awkward, right? But now we just, two of us, we just discuss like this, and I feel like, yeah, it's actually not that bad. And if the more we can talk to our children, I think it will be easier and more comfortable.
Yes, and remember, children are so much more comfortable about these things. They're only uncomfortable because we make it so.
Oh, okay.
I assure you, they know what pornography is and they've seen it. But yet, we don't know that, right?
Yes.
Because we're not having that conversation with them. So they have to hide it, right? It's secretive.
Yes.
It's already happening. by adolescents. I assure you, adolescents will tell me, Davey, I had one who came in and shared with me what she refers as dick pics. So pictures of males who have sent her penises. So they call dick pics.
Okay.
And she showed me those penises.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're already, she's 15. So they're already doing that. They're familiar with that. So we want to make sure we keep close ties in the conversation that we have about it. And feel comfortable. Like that 15-year-old whose mother and father has no idea about this. But yet she shows it to me in therapy session. Dr. Tran, look at this. How disgusting is this? They keep sending me, these guys keep sending me these pics on this site.
Wow.
Comfortable. And then we have a conversation about that. And my response is, it's clear to me that you are disgusted by this. What part of these are you disgusted with? And then she said, of course, they think by sending their penises that I'm going to go out with them. That makes me less interested in them. And then I reinforce that by saying, so you have the sense to understand that this is not appropriate. If there's nothing about this that is appealing to you. That's how I did it. So you can have those conversations and then respond by validating their experiences. They know what's right and wrong.
Dr. Tran, that was an excellent example because nowadays, a lot of children, especially the girl, are the victim of that. They would meet somebody online and then somehow they exchanging these texts, and even the girl, the other person asked the teenager to take picture of them naked and send back to them.
Yes.
So the conversation go back and forth behind the parent. So how do parents diagnose this? How do parents know that the child hiding something like this? Are we?
Yeah.
How do we discover early enough before the child get deeply involved to the point that it could harmful to them? They could run away with the person, or something bad could happen.
Yeah, by the time it reaches that point, it's probably already too late. Because the perspective is already skewed. So in the case, she is one of several dozens of girls and guys who have showed me or who have invited me into their experience with sex in the past 18 years. So she's not the only one. So it is very familiar to these kids. Again, what I can do as a therapist or as a father, and what you all can do as parents, is to make sure you check in once in a while to see where they're at with all of this. I cannot reiterate enough once more the importance of the connection that we have with our children. If there is a solid foundation of trust, by definition, there is nothing to hide or conceal. So children want to speak about these things. Believe me, at the age of 2, they're pointing to their private parts and everything, and they're trying to introduce themselves to us. They want for us to know. They want for us to understand. They keep it a secret because they know we won't understand. We're just going to come back and be judgmental. They do not need a dictator telling them how to live their life and the way they live. They need a parent. So parents and dictator shouldn't be one and the same. Leave the dictatorship to dictators. For parents, we are supportive, loving, and we do so. And you started the show by using the word grace, with grace. Love, understanding, right? With grace.
Yeah, I think that's important. As parents, we need to show to our children that no matter what, mommy and daddy there for you. We love you unconditionally. And for that, when the children make mistakes, they know where to come for help instead of afraid. And speaking about that, is children, especially teenagers, under pressure, or they might engage into risky behavior about sex. As a parent, how do you help children inform or be responsible for their choice without interfere into their autonomy?
Yes, so autonomy is actually a word that is tied to that concept of autonomy called body autonomy. And that's this whole idea that the child understands and learns that the body, her body, his body is his and hers alone. How to cultivate it is dependent on how we respond to the child. So when my child was about 1.5, 1 or 2, I would ask her for permission for a hug to let her know that she is her own and she owns her own. So teaching the child that it's okay to say no helps her develop a sense of autonomy and empowerment. And in regards to what you asked, boundaries and consent are extremely important matters or topics to talk about. Boundaries and consent. That no one has consent to even touch her, let alone ask for sex. Touch her without her permission. Right? So boundaries, if it's clear enough, through the way we interact with our children, we set boundaries for them by asking them for permission to enter the room even. They formulate this concept that they matter that much, that an adult, their father no less, would ask for permission before he enters a room. It empowers them. So empowerment leads to greater maturity.
And yes, talking about this empowerment, make the kid make their choice and decision for themselves, is also for some parents, especially to the mother, who are attaching to their little boy. And I can feel that from my own experience, having 2 kids, my daughter 17 and my son is about 14 years old. And when they was young, mom is everything, or mom and dad. Especially, I'm with my kid most of the time, and they always come and want hugging and holding. But when they getting older, and especially the boy, he seemed to be distant from the mother. Like even though when sometimes we can just come and want to give him a hug, and he seemed to push you out. What do you take from that, Dr. Tran?
That is an important process to separate themselves from the parents in that way. We have to be really open-minded to understand that it is a process of maturity where they feel like they need their own, and there's a process in psychology, it's called individuation. So individuation is a process by which a child reaches a certain status or age, which then separate themselves from another. It could be a parent or a teacher, or that's why they can sometimes appear withdrawn or distant, even with teachers, right? Or other adults. But the process is important because it allows them space to figure themselves out in the process. So at around 13 to 18, this process is very important. What they're trying to do through this individuation is to practice figuring out who they are. So a man doesn't fully form a solid identity until about the age of 28. A female not till the age of 18. So females, women, girls mature quicker, a decade earlier than most men, and that's why we see a lot of stupidity happening with men even in the 20s. But in any case, it's a healthy process. We just have to understand it. But here's the neat thing. After this process is done with, they start to develop a different capacity for reasoning and intelligence. Then they come upon insight, which then makes them wiser. This insight and wisdom cultivates a greater sensitivity and kindness and gratitude and compassion. You'll find that then later on, as they mature well into their adulthood, they come back to us with a different kind of understanding and appreciation for us. It's a wonderful thing. We just have to endure this process of individuation because we know it's best for them. But with that individuation, they will develop a greater capacity of intelligence that will help them recognize that all along we were the best thing in their life. And then it really hits them when they have their first child. Things start to be very clear that mom and dad mattered more than I had thought. We just have to be patient and wait for that.
So that give them space in your advice.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So back into the topic, the last question is, if the children make mistake, and let's see, they've been hiding from the parent, meet up someone, parent never know about it, and then end up pregnant, especially in the teenager. How does the parent cope with that?
They probably won't initially because they will experience a flood of all kinds of emotions that starts with concern and worry. This is a natural feeling. Once the child gets to that point in adolescence, and I have had and worked with adolescents, 15, 16, 17, and 18, who were pregnant, who came to me just for support. Once the initial experience of potentially trauma from the parent, having found out that their child or the teen is pregnant, it then becomes an opportunity for us to really step back and look at the bigger picture here. And the bigger picture is the child. Part of our worry is that we envision a difficult future for the child. And the other part of the worry is it creates distress in us because it then sheds doubt in our parenting. What could I have done differently? I should have done this. Would I have done this? Would it have changed? So we have to be very careful with that part of us. Okay, so we're going to set all of that aside and then move forward with the child, sit with the child if she's pregnant, and then say, and with a tone of encouragement, let's figure out what we need to do moving forward. Let's figure out, you and I, because I'm here to support you 100% one way or the other, what we need to do to support you here. How do you feel about this? And what is it that I can do to continue to support you?
Yeah, I think Dr. Tran, at that time it's really important that the parents show the support, love and support for the child. Because when that thing happened, I think the child scared the most. Scared of uncertainty, scared of what the consequence gonna be. As a child, how did they be responsible enough? Not even responsible for themselves. How is she responsible to raise another baby, a baby, right? So I think being parent, that is the time that the child need our support the most. Being parent, at that time, we need to show that our love and support for our child and the baby inside, and help our children go through the difficult time. So, in Arizona, there's the law that recently passed in the last few years that not allow abortion. Well, if the parent or the child doesn't want to keep the baby, their choice may be to go to California or Nevada, some other state, to do that. Or if they decide to keep the baby, then the parent have to help the child to raise the baby so that it's in the loving, caring, and healthy environment. And again, when it comes to this topic, there's a lot of things to discuss, and as parents, we should have to be there for our children. So you are watching the shows about ParenTea, and the topic today is about how to talk to your children about sex, love, and relationship. If you have any question and you need consultation with Dr. Khanh Tran, call this number 307-655-5510. So again, 307-655-5510. And Dr. Tran, is anything else you would like to add on to today's topic before we say bye to our viewers?
I'll keep this one short. Open up a dialogue. Answer her or his questions. Be open to those questions. Listen, and listen some more.
And once again, thank you, Dr. Tran, for sharing with us insightful information about this topic. As parents, again, this is a very sensitive topic, but it's part of the essential process of raising a children in the environment of nurturing, loving, and care. So we hope that with what we're sharing in today, we hope you navigate through this process. And if you still need help, pick up the phone and make an appointment with Dr. Khanh Tran at 307-655-5510. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you have a good time. And until then, let's take a sip of tea and continue our conversation in the next episode.